To the average American, the idea of leaving the United States and living a simpler, freer life almost seems like it's impossible. When you say that to some people, they act like you're asking them to abandon their oxygen. But it's not because life outside of the US is impossible. It's because we have been trained to think that anything that happens outside our comfort zone equals danger, failure, or poverty. Hey everyone, my name is Jay and I'm an American expat who quit my job in October of 2020, took my skills online, moved me and my family over to the Dominican Republic, specifically Santo Domingo, and we've been here ever since. Today I want to break down this belief that has been drilled in the minds of Americans. And that belief is that life outside of the United States is either unsafe, unlivable, or not even an option. And as Americans, we are immersed in this narrative of convenience, this narrative of prosperity, and that life is built upon an abundance of creature comforts. But what happens when this narrative, yes, the one that we've been told that defines what a good life is, what if we realize that it wasn't true at all? From birth as Americans, we are conditioned to equate survival with comfort, with convenience, with Wi-Fi that never drops, with 2-day shipping, with 40-hour work week and the hustle culture. We have been told all our lives that if you leave this system, you will fail. Or even worse, if you leave this system, you'll be unsafe. So instead of us questioning the system, guess what we do? We adapt to it. We take on the debt. We take on the anxiety, the isolation, and then we had a nerve to call that freedom. For many Americans, the ideal of daily life without Wi-Fi, fast food, or being able to buy a new car every 3 or 4 years sounds like a dystopian nightmare. It can be hard to truly conceptualize surviving without these things, let alone thriving. And then we end up believing unconsciously that true life only happens within the borders of the US. So what do I mean by creature comforts? In America, these are not just luxuries. Actually, they're often presented as just a baseline of a functional existence. For example, you gotta have this type of car. You gotta have this type of house. You gotta wear these type of clothes. You gotta have this type of jewelry. There's an imaginary baseline in America that says you must have these things in order for you to actually be living. And let me tell you this, creature comforts is not survival. Access to Uber Eats, 24-hour Walmarts, Alexa turning your lights on and off and your TV on and off, that doesn't mean you're living well. It means that you are surviving in a system that's designed to keep you too tired, too busy, too overstimulated to even question it. Meanwhile, people in other parts of the world, they're living with far less. However, they're experiencing far more joy, far more freedom, and actual community. So why do Americans think that life outside of the US is impossible? Because we have been fed fear from every direction. Other countries are dangerous. Healthcare is bad there. Girl, they hate Americans over there. What are you doing? You can't survive without English. And the most popular one, they're poor. Why would you want to live there? When none of that is universally true. But fear sells. And guess what else? It keeps you compliant. If you really think about it, we're not taught how to be resourceful, how to adapt, how to think globally. We've been taught how to depend. Depend on what? Depend on systems, depend on schedules, depend on things. We are programmed to believe that working air conditioners, supermarkets with 20 different types of sugary cereal, and immediate medical attention is not just desirable, but it's a prerequisite for a decent life. And this narrative is often reinforced through our media, of course, through advertising, and now through our education system, which creates this internal standard. And anything that deviates from this standard is often looked at as a step backwards, hardship, or something less than living. When we see images or hear stories from other parts of the world, from countries that has less resources, our comfort level kicks in. We might interpret things like lack of air conditioning as unbearable. And I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I remember when I first started coming over here back in, 2009, We used to stay at my wife's mom's house. And when I tell you, it was hot. It was probably one of the first times that I actually slept that I could remember without an air conditioner. And I remember when we got back to the US, and I was like, we gotta buy your mom an air conditioner because it was unbearable at that house, man. And that just, that helped her, feel more comfortable. So we sit in the air conditioner, and I remember coming back over to here the next time to find out that her mom wasn't even using the air conditioner. And I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, why is she not using the air conditioner? You know why? Because it didn't bother her. What was unbearable for me was life to her. And who am I to tell her that she's suffering? Because me not having an air conditioner, I would feel as if I was suffering, but she wasn't. And this is just one example of many where Americans feel as if someone has less resources than us, then they're not really living or they're suffering. And the reason for that is because the framework for us that constitute a good life or even a livable life is so deeply ingrained in American consumerism and convenience. And we struggle to imagine how people survive in these conditions, let alone find joy, purpose, and community without the exact same systems and comforts that we rely on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of times we project our anxieties onto them by saying things like, oh man, I could never live like that, which translate into they must be miserable, or that their lifestyle isn't truly living. But here's the powerful truth. Life doesn't just exist outside of the US, it flourishes. Billions of people representing countless cultures, language, and traditions lead rich, complex, and deeply meaningful lives without the exact same creature comforts that we define as essential. They have strong family bonds, vibrant communities, they have innovative solutions to local challenges, and a profound connection to their environment and their history. Their definition of comfort and survival are far more adaptable and rooted in resilience, resourcefulness, and the well-being of the collective rather than the individual. What we perceive as impossible or deprived from our little comfort bubbles is simply life for the majority of the world. It's a life where community replaces social safety nets, where local markets replace these big supermarkets, and where resourcefulness replaces endless consumption. And this subconscious belief that life is impossible outside of our paradigm has real consequences. It creates this form of American exceptionalism that can prevent us from truly understanding global issues, appreciate diverse cultures, and seeing humanity as a connected whole. So what has living abroad taught me? To be honest, when I first moved here to Dominican Republic, I had fears. Yes, the guy Jay you see having a good time now at the rivers, in villas, on the beaches, he had fears. I didn't know if I'd make it. I didn't know the language perfectly, and I didn't know if I was giving up something that I could never get back. But since making this move, I've gained peace, presence, and flexibility. Time with family, neighbors who know my name. Well, I don't know if they know my name or not. They call me Vecino. That's what, hey, Vecino, Vecino, Vecino. Yeah. So I don't know if they even know my name, but they do address me as Vecino. And yes, life feels slower, but it's more fuller. Life abroad has taught me that survival is not about hoarding comfort. It's about building a life that's sustainable, mentally, financially, and spiritually. So how do you dismantle this invisible wall of perception and expand our concept of survival? And more importantly, a rich and fulfilling life beyond the confines of America's creature comforts. So what do? It starts with curiosity. Actively seek out stories or perspectives that challenges your assumptions. I try to do this all the time. People always have this idea of how Dominican Republic is based on what they've heard or seen on YouTube. And although I give them a different perspective, it's still hard for a lot of people to believe that you can live a normal life here based on all the bullshit that has been ingrained in their head from some of these YouTubers. And another way you could do it is recognize that our way of life in America is not the only way. It's really about valuing resourcefulness, community, resilience, as much as, if not more than, consumerism and convenience. When we learn that the human experience is incredibly diverse, we then recognize that joy, innovation, and connection thrives in many forms globally. And at that point, our understanding of life, our understanding of survival, and our place in the world becomes more richer and more accurate. It liberates us from this limited perspective and opens us up to a truly global perspective. And I believe this is part of the reason why I've had success here living in Dominican Republic, is because I stopped limiting my perspective. I opened my mind up globally. And I understand that just because I was raised a certain way or taught a certain thing doesn't mean that it's the right way. It doesn't mean what these people are doing here is wrong. It's just their way of life. And I accept it. You'll rarely hear me complain here because I understand. I walk around here and I treat people the way I want them to treat me. And so far, the way I treat people has been reciprocated to me. I don't look down on Dominicans. I don't walk around with this superiority complex saying, oh, if I was in America, this or this wouldn't be like this in America. Man, I just live. I go with the flow. I'm not swimming against the current. And if I get caught up in a space where the currents are too rough for me, I'm just gonna get out the water. I'm not gonna swim against it. I'm just gonna get out the water until they calm down. And once they calm down, I'll get back in the water. But you'll never see me going against the grain. Not here. So here's the truth. Millions of people live outside of the United States without the gadgets, without the grind, without the anxiety. And guess what? They're fine. Matter of fact, I would say they're more than fine. They figured out how to survive without all the noise. And they've built their lives rooted in simplicity, family, resourcefulness, not consumerism, and not convenience. And you'll be crazy not wanting the same thing. So if you've ever felt like life in the United States is just too much, too fake, too expensive, that's not you being ungrateful. That's your spirit recognizing that it's more to life than just convenience. Listen, if I wanted convenience, I would have stayed in the United States. But I recognize it was more to life for me than convenience and comfort. I'll sacrifice a little comfort and convenience for a lot of peace. I see comments all the time where people say about the road. What about the roads? What about when the lights go off? What about not being able to drink the water? Man, I don't give a shit about that. I'm asking myself, what about my mental health? What about my peace? I would sacrifice the lights going off, which my lights doesn't go off. I sacrifice the bad roads. I'll sacrifice having to call a Calmado and bringing me the botellones any day of the week and twice on Sundays for the peace that I've been able to acquire since I've been living here in Dominican Republic. Guys, it's okay to want something slower. It's okay to leave. It's okay to reimagine your survival on your own terms. Because life outside of the United States isn't impossible. In many ways, it's the most possible life that I've ever lived. So guys, if you've ever thought about moving abroad or you're tired of surviving inside this box that America made for you, drop a comment below. I want to know what scares you about life outside of the United States. And if you're not scared, what draws you to it? So before I go, I want to let you guys know I created a weekly newsletter. It's called Live Your Best Life Newsletter. Guys, if you're interested in money, personal development, living abroad, this is the newsletter for you. I'm gonna leave a link in the video description below. Go ahead, sign up. I'll see you guys over there. And until the end, remember, always keep your goals at the forefront of your mind. Always live in the present, because that's the only way you're gonna live your best life. And I'm out. Peace.
Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Something you and me, oh. Je begon aan mijn best life, yeah. Jumping, flexing, no.